2021, I wrote this book called Talk to Me, and I based it on the experiences of growing up in the funeral business, graduating from mortuary school in '06, and then coming back home and starting full-time working for the firm. Brought on some interesting experiences, let's just say that. So a lot of the people that work for our firm, we have very longevity, as a lot of you guys do in your firms. So we had probably a third of our staff that was working at the funeral home at the time when I was maybe 12, 13 years old, that still worked when I joined the firm coming out of school in 2006. So here's a picture of our firm. So about 30% of the people that are in this current picture were still working back when I was a kid. So when I joined, I came on board, came out of school, and I'm now in the quote-unquote leadership role of the company. People were looking up to me, people who I called aunt and uncle growing up, and now they're looking at me like, oh, so now I'm supposed to do what you say now? So I had to learn very quickly that I'm going to have to prove myself so that they understand that I am just as hardworking as they are. So that's basically what I did. For the next 2 or 3 years, I did everything from the prep room, embalming, answering the phones, wiping down, sweeping up, whatever needed to be done, I did it. There was nothing that was above me. So I was able to get the respect and have those elders of the company see like, oh, he's for real. He's here to do the job. So I began to see, okay, now it's time, let's make some changes in the company. I think we need to modernize things. So I started 2 feet, jumped in, and told them, this is what we're going to do, this is my idea, this is how we're going to change things. And that fell flat on its face. So I learned you have to get the buy-in. You have to not only get the respect, but you have to get those leaders in the company to buy into what your ideas are. You can't just walk in and lay it out for them and expect them to go with it. You've got to show them the benefits and get their buy-in before you can launch what you're trying to do. So this here is the structure. This coming into the business is how I thought we were set up. My mom was CEO, owner, running. We had our managers in place and the employees underneath. This is how I believe we were set up. Most funeral homes may believe this is how you're set up. This is how you actually look. You may have that owner or who's running the company, and then your middle management might be family members, might be some elder staff, but there's no clear line of command. And that's what younger people, especially Gen Zers and millennials coming into the business now, they're used to that structured hierarchy. They want that structure so they know who to go to. If I want to succeed in this company, then who do I have to report to? Who can I build trust with? And so forth and so on. So this is what my company looked like, and what I'm sure a lot of yours looks like, is there's no clear line, no clear delineation of command, of a course of command. So this is what we have to work on internally, especially in death care. We have to work on being a little bit more structured. We have to be able to give those coming into the business a clear line of what our expectations are of them and how to address certain issues, who they need to take it to. A lot of times, even if you're a smaller firm and you only have 7 or 8 employees, they really should not be able to go right in the office of the boss or the owner at any given time and report issues. Just setting up a basic hierarchy is going to make your life much easier and also give those newcomers and those younger generation of workers that clear line of command. So, how do we not kill each other? What do we need to do to work together? What do we need to do to learn how to be better employees, better owners, and bridge that gap between our differences in generation and age? So imagine a workplace that you have that bridging the gap mentality. You have more productivity. You have less complaints, less friction between those generations. That's going to entail, it's going to look like efficiency. You're going to be more efficient business. You're going to have meaningful collaboration between the generations. So that's not just, older to younger working, or older to older working together, your younger employees working together. This is the entire firm. Everybody is going to feel heard and listened to. And it's going to increase the morale and increase and better the culture in your business. Now, I know culture is kind of a big buzzword nowadays. Everybody talks about culture, what you have to do for culture. Bring in a massage therapist once a month. Do things to increase the culture. That is not culture. And I learned that the hard way as well. I did things that I thought, hey, we're doing this for you. We're doing this added value. We're bringing all this in. That's not culture. Culture is hearing out those who work for you, having a genuine care for your employees, and giving them responsibilities that builds them up as a person and as a staff member. So what does that result in for our owners in the room and managers? Higher staff retention. I mean, that's a big thing now. We're fighting for good employees to work for us. You need to keep those tenured staffers. You need to hold on to those younger ones that show promise. It's not something we can do anymore by recycling staff over and over. There's not an abundance of people that are coming out of school that we have to choose from. And on the flip side, people don't work in jobs 20 and 30, 40 years anymore. So we've got to hold on to them as long as we can, as long as they feel comfortable. And if you're giving them that motivational aspect that they need, they will stick around long term. But you've got to be able to invest in them. Don't be afraid to put some resources, put some money behind the staff that you hire. So I know I've heard a lot of funeral directors I've talked to over the last couple years doing this presentation that say, well, I don't want to put all this money into them, and they walk out the door and go down the street and work for somebody else. Well, what does it look like if you don't put money into them? What does it look like if you don't invest in them? So I would rather take that risk and roll the dice of creating a better staffer and they potentially leaving than them sticking around and not having training, not being brought up in the business the right way. They're going to be more of a detriment than they will if you have to train them and if they potentially leave. And then again, increase market share. You're going to have better staff, which is going to serve our clients better and in turn bring more business back to you in the future. So today, the overall takeaways that I want you guys to really learn and take away today is, number one, understanding the gaps that exist between the generations. Every business is going to be different, so you're going to be able to tell where those gaps are, identify those gaps in your own business. And then number two, recognizing the gaps. Number three, implementing paths to bridge those gaps, implementing strategies that will help you work with the younger staffers and vice versa, help those younger staffers work with the older generation. So understanding, where are we at in today's generational landscape? So boomers, 1940s to the mid-60s. Raise your hand if you're in that age range. Born in the late 40s to the mid-60s. Okay. Gen Xers, right up mid-60s, right up to about 1980. Gen Xers in the room. Okay. And millennials, where are my fellow millennials at? Early 80s, right up to the late 90s. Very good. Clyde, no. Any Gen Zers? Any Gen Z? Okay, we got a few Gen Zers in here, right? Late 90s, right up to 2010. Okay. Very good. So in my book, I specifically break down the millennial generation. So I speak about how there are two types of millennials. The older millennials, which I've coined the X-Millennials, and your younger millennials, which I call the social millennials. So X-Millennials were those that were born at the early part of the generation, so 1981, 82, right up until 1990. Social millennials would be that latter portion, 1990 right up until the 2000, 99, 2000. So the X-Millennials, I gave them that term because I fit in that category, and we have more of that old school sense. So we're able to relate to Gen Xers more because we were raised in an environment without technology. I remember being in school and going to the library and still using the Dewey Decimal System to check out library books. There was no, look, you don't even know what the Dewey Decimal System is, do you? What is that? Dewey? Exactly. But before there was a computer, that's right, you had large categories of cards that you flipped through to find the location of the book. So coming up through middle school and into high school is where computers started being widely available, and we were using them in the library rather than that. But we still had that old school sense, so we knew what it was like before computers came up. Now, social millennials, they grew up in an always connected environment. So when they were coming up, even if they didn't have a cell phone, you still had AOL Instant Messenger. You had early forms of social media like Friendster and MySpace. So you always had this connectivity to your friends and peers that didn't require you even picking up the phone and having a phone conversation. So I remember being a kid and being at the house, one line in the house, you're talking to your friends, your parents pick up the phone, hey, get off the phone, I gotta make a phone call. The social millennials never had to experience that because they were either on their computer typing or on a phone typing and communicating by social media or by instant messenger. So it's important that we recognize the strengths in the generations. So baby boomers, Gen Xers, these are your tenured staff. These are the ones in the business that have been there. They built the business. They know what's going to happen before it happens. Boomers and Gen Xers are going to be able to point out the pitfalls to you so that you don't fall into them. But the younger generation, we have to be open to seeing that. We can't just assume because they're older and their knowledge does not work in today's day. No, that's totally wrong. The knowledge that they have built over the years can be applied at any time. You just have to know how to work it in today's. Like you may have an old antiquated way of doing something and the boomer says, no, this is what we're going to do. This is how we've been doing it. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means you have to put a little twist on it and bring it up to today's age. But the reason why it was implemented and the reason why it's worked in the company is because it's a good strategy. So you have to understand where they're coming from and why it is that they're doing the way that they do things. So do not, for the younger generations, do not discredit or overlook the value that the older generation gives. Now millennials, to my boomers and Gen Xers, millennials have a lot that they can bring to the table and a lot of value that they can give to your company. The ability to identify where things can be brought up to modern ages that may be a little lacking, where new technologies can improve efficiencies and save money. And in turn, they're going to know what the client base wants who's making arrangements. So we're going to be bearing people who are in their 80s and 90s years old or younger sometimes, but their children, they're the ones who are sitting with you making the arrangements. So they want to do things the way that they expect. They want to be able to go on the internet and see product online before they come into the funeral home. They want to know pricing options. So being able to use your younger staff to be able to help you bring your business more up to date or ahead of time, get ahead of the curve, and impress your client base of how proactive that you are as a business. So how do we bridge the gap? First, we're going to talk about how to analyze. How do we integrate the dynamics within the workplace? So let's practice here on technology. Boomers grew up often with floor model TVs. Now this payphone is a little bit disrespectful, I'm sorry, but fax machines, you grew up using fax, or raised in the business using fax machines throughout the business. Today, there's no problem. There's plenty of boomers who are on social media, who are on Facebook. They know how to use email. They have smartphones. So there's no reason. Do not assume just because you have a boomer boss or an older boss that they're just going to be totally against technology and they're not going to move with the times. They're already doing it. They're checking their email. They've got smartphones. They know what to do, but you have to be able to slowly bring them into your world. You can't expect them, if we're going back, if they've used fax machines for the last 30 years, and you say, hey, let's use email now rather than fax, but the fax machine is reliable, they're comfortable with using it, don't try and take that away and just use it as an aid. Let them where they're happier with, whatever they're more comfortable with using. So in saying that, with using email, it might be more productive for you, but if it does not make that older generation comfortable, you have to understand that and be able to work with them. Gen Xers are often using pagers, the cell phone, remember the big block cell phones? They did come up start using early forms of computer with Nintendo, Atari, so they had that exposure to technology, but they also went through social change. So Gen Xers had gone through the social change through the late 60s and the 70s, so they're used to that adaptation and the adoption of new ways of doing things. And they're using everything, all forms of technology now. Of course, they're on social media, smart technology in the home, smartphones, but still being able to tap into them because they're used to the older technologies. They do see the values of the newer technologies, but being able to see where you're at, what are you comfortable with? So coming from the younger generational perspective, you don't want to add too much tech if they're not ready for it. Slowly bring them on. Even though if you integrate some kind of a new management system, and we're going paperless, guys, we're all going on this new case management system. Don't force them over to this new way of doing things. Leave it as, leave the paper behind on some things and slowly work it over to paperless if that's what you're doing. But you can't jump 2 feet in all at once and make this so they're not comfortable. So let's see if we can implement this lesson here. Can I get all the Gen Xers and baby boomers to stand up? Stand up. Baby boomers and Gen Xers. Okay. Okay, Gen Xers, you guys sit down. Gen Xers, sit back down. Gen Xers only, sit back down. Baby boomers, stand up. No, I'm sorry. No, Gen Xers, you guys get back up. Baby boomers, you guys sit down. Baby boomers, you guys sit down. Xers back up. Xers up. Xers up. No, baby boomers. No, I'm sorry. Boomers, back up. I'm sorry. Stand back up. Okay. All right, guys, sit down back down. Sit down. Okay. Sit down back down. Sure this time. Now, unless you're Catholic like I am, that may have been a little bit frustrating. But what that was an example of is how you often come off to millennials. So millennials and the younger generation, they think that they're doing what they're told. Just like you guys were standing up. I asked you, sat down when I did. You stood back up. You're doing what you're told, but you don't see what's he doing. What's the end goal? Same thing with the younger generation. They want to see what that end goal is. They'll follow directions, but if they don't know where this is going, then they're going to be frustrated while they're following the directions. They're going to feel unheard. They're going to feel lost. So as you guys, even day to day, week to week, as you're bringing on new staffers or you're trying to motivate your current younger staffers, give them the end plan in mind. Hey, what's our year goal? How many cases are we trying to hit this year? What goal? What are we trying to do to improve customer service? Don't just give them commands. They will follow it, but they're not going to be happy followers. So give them goals in mind and include them and show them how they can help. So, millennials, we're going back to our technology. Millennials, we grew up with the big big monitor computers, those first computers. We had some of the not smartphones, but the cell phones. We had the basic iPods here. But now millennials, they are at the forefront of new technology. So they're the head of these new tech companies that are creating AI, that are evolving technology in what we do today. So millennials, you can use this group to bridge the gap between the generations, especially those older millennials, because they can relate to you guys as being boomers and Gen Xers, and they can relate to those younger Gen Zers because they know about technology themselves. So being able to use, especially those X-Millennials, that early millennial part of the generation, use that to your advantage. There might be things that you just don't understand with dealing with younger millennials or Gen Z, or you just don't understand it. That's fine. This group will, though. So reiterate your needs and your wants to the younger generation, to the older millennials, and give them the baton. Let them go to the younger generation, say, hey, these are the expectations. This is why we're doing certain things the way we do it, and this is how we'll evolve over time. And Gen Zers, they're already connected. I mean, Gen Zers came out of the womb with a phone in their hands, so that's a whole nother issue in itself, just on communication and things like that. We don't have time to get into that today. But just know that this group here, especially Gen Zers, they are comfortable with technology and being immersed in technology. They will be uncomfortable with basic things like talking on the phone. You can call a Gen Zer right now back at the office and they won't answer your call. But you text them 1 second later and that text is coming right back. It's like, you have the phone in your hand sitting in front of you. Why don't you answer the call? Like, I just want to text. I just want to text. So that's you, but sometimes we have to do that. We have to work in their comfort zone. If you want to get the most out of your employees, learn what makes them tick, learn what things that they feel more comfortable with, and use that to your advantage. Now, that's going to require some more hard work, a little bit more effort on your behalf, but the payoff and the benefit is going to be well worth it. All right, millennials, Gen Zers, you guys stand up. Come on. All right. Very good. Okay, let's see who we have in here. Okay. So, Brianna, how does it make you feel when you feel unheard, or if you're trying to introduce something new into the business? How does it make you feel when it doesn't get executed, or not in the way that you would like it?
Oh. Mm-hmm. Sorry, excuse my voice, but it makes me frustrated and it makes me shut down and not want to give any more advice or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Who else we have over here? Let's see, Chris.
How did I know you were going to say that?
When Dad comes to you and you're trying to introduce a new idea and he shuts it down right away, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel bad, I guess. Dad's not in there anymore, though, so that's the
Jay. Let's see. Let's come over here. How about when you're trying to introduce new ideas into the business or see different way the business could go that would make it a better business, and you're immediately shut down? How does it make you guys feel?
Makes me feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. They don't trust me. They don't want to hear my input. Mm-hmm. Those type of things.
Very good. Okay, everybody sit down. Thank you. I just wanted to share that because sometimes we don't get that perspective. We don't hear that from the younger generation. They might be intimidated. They're scared to say what they truly mean. So just if you take on one-on-one conversations, even just having basic conversations and asking them for their honest feedback, or even doing anonymous little comment boxes at the funeral home that they can leave. You're going to gain a lot of insight. Now, to millennials, you guys, those changes that you want to put in place, those things that you see that can make the business better, a lot of us are very, I don't want to say abrasive, but when we get an idea in our heads, we want it done now. We want to get there. We want to tell you about it. We want to show you how it can be done. But these owners in this room, especially, the older generation with boomers and Xers, they have 101 different things on their plate every single day. They may want to hear your ideas, but when you just run in and they've got 5 things they're doing at one time already, and you say, hey, let's do X, Y, and Z, it's not getting through. Their mind is somewhere else because they've got a business to run. Now, what you can do, though, and what will be a lot more impressive, is if you say, hey, when do you have time in the next week or two where I can sit down for 30 minutes or so and give you an idea? Let's put something on your calendar. Now, doesn't that sound a whole lot better? Now, it sounds a whole lot more professional, sounds serious. Now, they're going to come into that meeting with you with an open mind and eager to hear what you have to say. They don't know if it's good or bad. They don't know what to think. But by being to have that dedicated time that you took it upon yourself to carve out with them is going to mean a lot more than you just constantly going at them every day to try and tell them what they should and shouldn't be doing. Number 2, strategize. So we know how to analyze, we know how to find those gaps, but how do we start mending? How do we come up with tools? How do we come up with different ideas that we can start to implement in the business? So we'll start with Gen Zers. Gen Z, we know they only know a smart world. They grew up on smartphones and technology. You could mention to a Gen Zer right now about collect calls. They probably wouldn't know what in the world you're talking about. Millennials are responsible for creating this smart world that we live in. So again, use them to your advantage. Use them to connect with that younger generation. Use them as your gap bridgers. Gen Xers, with the social change and the digital revolution that they lived through, they are very adaptable. And you can use them to not only work with your millennials, if you've got a millennial or younger generation that you just can't work with, they can help bridge that gap as well. But they can show you those holes that exist, and they'll be able to talk to you on a level that you might be used to. If you don't want a little pipsqueak millennial coming up to you and telling you what's going wrong in the business, lean on those Gen Xers because they're going to be able to see, well, how we're used to doing things over the last 20 years is great, but you know what? John over here, he's got a good idea that he just picked up from school, and I think we should listen to him. I think we can start doing things a little different. They're going to be able to give you the real story. And then the boomers, you might be resistant to tech or evolving the business into a smart world, but just having an open mind and never forgetting, don't think that you have to, forget about that experiences that you have. Always keep that forefront and bring that to the table, but just have an open mind. And we all know change takes time, change is slow, so don't feel like you have to do things and change things right away, but you have to start evolving a little bit more in order to even encourage younger employees. And then boomers, providing that wisdom, asking questions to the younger generation is going to make them feel important. Ask for their insights, being able to share your experiences. I know so many now think that, they don't care, they don't want to hear what I have to say. They're too hard-headed, they're not going to listen. But there are so many of us that want to hear those stories. We want to hear those experiences because that's the only way that we can avoid making the same mistakes and falling into the same pitfalls. So don't assume that they don't want to hear those experiences. They really do. Being Gen Xers, being that bridge builder, using them to your advantage to bridge that gap between millennials and boomers, and using millennials to start implementing, whether it be new technology, new ways of doing things, making your business more efficient. Millennials are going to be so much more exposed to just the newer, greater ways, greater things, how we do things, that you can take bits and pieces of that to incorporate in your business. You don't have to take the whole pie. Just take a slice here and there and see how it can fit into your business. And Gen Zers, they're going to be, total technology to the max. So if you feel like that you want to create something AI-based, or you want to know how you can start using AI or these new technologies, bring in that Gen Zer, let them share those ideas. Now let them know, now this might be 10 years down the road, but I want to hear about those ideas now. And implementation. Now, how do we implement these solutions? How can we start putting real life changes, real life solutions into the business? So, I'll use a Bible story here, Matthew chapter 5, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. He mentioned about a lamp, a lighted lamp, and putting a bowl over it. So what he said was, we don't light a lamp and put a bowl over it. You light a lamp and you take it outside and hang it on the lampstand for everyone to see the light. Now, by saying that, what I mean is the new people coming into the business, the younger generation coming out of mortuary school. We owe it to them to let their light shine, to show them how things should be done in this business. I know in mortuary school, I've heard a lot of complaints that they're just not learning things, they're not bringing things out of school like they were 20 years ago or so. So it's our job, it's our duty to pull out what we can out of these new students. You don't hire new staff just to put them to the side, stick them in the prep room, and don't teach them anything. We hire them because they're the future of our business. So we have to be able to find ways to bring them up and pull that productivity out of them. One way to do that is listen and learn. So if we're going to implement strategies that work, we have to learn where they're coming from. You have to have literally one-on-one meetings with everybody on your staff, especially the younger generation. Don't talk about work. Ask them, what are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are their hobbies? And you're going to learn so much from them, being able to use what they like to the advantage of the business. So I'll give you an example in my business. A few years ago, we hired a guy out of the auto industry, a car aficionado, loved cars, loved working on cars. And basically, we had him as a greeter, floor staff type of person. When I learned about his love for cars, I said, well, why don't we make you a head of our fleet? We've got 16, 17 vehicles. It's not worth me running them to the dealership every time. Why don't we put you ahead of the fleet? Every time something goes wrong, they come to you, they don't come to me. Now, that takes burden off of myself and off of my mom and my brother, where we don't have to deal with mundane issues with vehicles. And now I've got somebody who knows, oh, this doesn't need to go to a dealership. I can take this to the muffler guy down the shop. I can take this to the brake shop. This doesn't need to go to a dealership. In the first three to 4 months that we put him ahead of that position, he saved us $7,200 just in maintenance costs. So now he's doing something that he loves. He's still working in the same position. He's still working the floor. He's still assisting with services. But now he's actually have more responsibilities by taking on the fleet, but he's more a happier employee because he's doing something that he loves. So finding that out, you're never going to know that unless you can have those one-on-one conversations with the staffers. You're never going to know what they like. You may even find out that this person, suffered maybe a childhood trauma or something that they don't respond well when they're talked harshly to. So now If they're doing something wrong, the wrong response is to yell at them because they're going to totally shut down and they're not going to hear, they're not going to learn. So with this person, you're going to need to pull them to the side and tell them, explain to them what happened and how to correct that behavior. So again, that comes down to we've got to shift our focus a little bit too as owners and managers. It's easy just to yell at somebody, tell them what they're doing wrong and tell them to get right. But when you can have the forethought and the ability to change your mentality and how you approach certain things, that's how the staff is going to be better. And then having the commitment to implement. How do you commit? You have to be committed to these changes. I know all these conventions that we go to over the year, National Convention, State Convention, we always have these big ideas coming back home or say we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and they never happen. Or we start doing them, and then they fall off. We have to be committed to implement changes if you want real change. And follow up. You have to consistently follow up, tweak, and make changes as you go, especially when it comes to implementing things in the business that are going to encourage and engage your employees. You're going to have to follow up with them. Hey, is this something that works for you? Is this something else we should do? If somebody on your staff likes doing charcuterie boards, you could offer that service to your families. And now this person is engaged because they're doing something that they love, and while they're meeting with families, they're being able to offer their product to the families. The families are happy because now they're having an in-house service they don't have to go anywhere else for. So I'm just thinking, there's 1,000,001 different ideas, but you can't start anywhere without having the conversation first. So we can try it, we can go cry about it, and then you can try it again. Just have to keep on repeating. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be well worth it. So just stay the course and be able to keep at it and keep going. Don't be satisfied until you reach that end goal. So millennials, younger generation, we can't be know-it-alls. We have to be open to that conversation. When they sit down with you one-on-one and they're asking you candid questions, you have to be a little vulnerable. You're going to have to be open to them. There's a story in the Bible in the first chapter of Kings. King Solomon, if anybody knows the Bible, remembers the Bible, King Solomon, the richest person that ever lived. I mean, he would be a multi-trillionaire in today's dollars. People paid him what would equate to about $250 million in today's dollars just for an hour of consulting time, if you will, with him. I mean, this is the richest person that ever lived. So after he passes, his son takes the throne. Now he's the king. So his father's advisors, so these are probably guys that he grew up with, his father's most trusted advisors, came to him and gave him suggestions on how to rule his people. They said, rule the people with a soft hand and be gentle. Do not rule them with harshness. He says, okay. And then he goes to his friends, his peer group, and asks them, how should I rule my kingdom? And they say, you have to be brutal, you have to be harsh, you have to get their respect. He doesn't listen to his father's trusted advisor, he listens to his peer group. And with a very short time, the kingdom is divided into 3 ways and is never returned to the kingdom that his father built. So something that your parents, your grandparents, something your family has built can be divided if you do not go at it the right way. Don't always listen to your peer group. Go to those elders in the business. Go to the boomers and Xers and get their advice and trust they know what they're talking about. So why does all this matter? Any generation can get stuck in their ways, even with me. I mean, there's just certain things I like doing. I don't want to change, so I've got to get out of my comfort zone sometimes too. But that means being able to see, have the openness for people to come to you to see, hey, we should change this, or why don't we look at doing this way? You've got to get out your comfort zone a little bit and be open. And then we have to remember that we have to change. Businesses have to evolve. If you're not changing, if you're not evolving, your business is slowly dying and sometimes rapidly dying. So you have to be open to evolving and seeing how you can grow the business. And the ability to change is the life force of a business. So being open to that change and showing how to nurture and mold that change to grow the business is going to be crucial to success. So I know it can be hard, but you just have to be able to come out of your own comfort zone. Or like this guy. So I call this identify the idiot. Some people, you may have heard it, name the dummy. But basically what it is, when you feel stuck, when you feel like you're being negative, don't put a name on it. So whenever I feel like, I don't feel like doing this today, or he's not really right, I won't listen to him, I call that Tony Baloney. So whenever those thoughts, those negative thoughts come up into my head, I say, no, that's not me, that's Tony Baloney. And by naming that, and you can use a much harsher name than that, I just won't say it in this room, but by naming it, you identify it and you separate it from yourself. You're able to point that, give it a name, and say, hey, that's not me, that's that person. It seems a little, maybe motivational speaker-ish, little Tony Robbins, my list Tony Robbins-ish, but you have to learn to do things a little bit different if you want different results. So that's just one tool that I will sometimes use. And then if you really want to be able to change, you have to implement something in your business that changes it permanent. So if you want permanent change, be dedicated to implementing something and staying on top of it so that it changes your business permanently. Don't be afraid to raise your standards and your expectations, not of everybody in your business, not of your staff, not of your employees, but of yourself. Challenge yourself to be better, to move forward. Don't worry about what the guy down the street is doing. That's not your real competition. Your real competition is right here. If you can compete with yourself, if you can go further than where you see yourself going, then what the guy does down the street doesn't matter, because you're always going to be improving. You're always going to be doing better. So ask yourself some self-reflection questions. Ask yourself, if somebody does something that annoys you during the day, why is that annoying me? And I bet you're going to find the answer is in you and not them. Also, when you see challenges that are hard, remember that you just have to be you can't be resistant to change. You have to be open again. I keep harping on that over and over, but that's one of the biggest takeaways, is being open to change. Challenges are often going to reflect what you don't like about yourself, about your business. So you're projecting those onto other things. So, speaking of change, anybody remember these phones? These little Nokia phones? 2007, Nokia was at the top of the mobile cellular market. They had dominant market share, over 50% market share. Anybody else remember what happened in 2007? iPhone. January 2007, Steve Jobs introduces the iPhone at Macworld. This is not a coincidence. Year by year after the iPhone was introduced, Nokia loses market share. They could have evolved before iPhone came out. They could have started to evolve into the smartphone market, but they didn't think it was necessary. They didn't think it would catch on that fast. And as their market share declined in their decline, they got too far behind the 8 ball and they can never catch up. 5 to 6 years later, In 2013, they sell their cell phone, the mobile business, to Microsoft. 5 to 6 years, a multi-billion-dollar company is gone in 5 to 6 years just because they didn't want to evolve. Now, if you think that can happen to them and not happen to you, I feel sorry for you. Anybody know this guy? Anybody a hockey fan? The great one, Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky always said, when they asked him, how are you so great? How do you do so well? You know, how are you one of the best ever? He said, I don't skate to where the puck is. I skate to where it's going to be. Being able to have that foresight to say, hey, where are things going in the business? How can I stay ahead of it? What is my staff? How can I do things that's going to help my staff improve? And staying ahead of the game is going to make it so no one can catch you. And again, competition. Competition is not the guy down the street. Competition is yourself. In order to be successful, you're going to have to compete with yourself where you will be. Set benchmarks, set goals of where you want to be in 5, 10 years, and shoot for that. Don't shoot to meet the guy, do the product, whatever the guy's selling down the street, whatever the gal is doing different over here, whatever new vehicles that they're using over here. Don't look at that. Where attention goes, energy flows. So some of you are sitting here right now saying, I can do both. I can monitor my competition and work on my business. Sure you can. But the advantage of someone who's focusing on their self, that energy is going to take them to a whole nother level. That attention that they're giving to their own business is going to produce and grow them. That energy that you're focusing 50% of your business will help, but that other 50% you're paying attention to the competitor is lost. That does not going to do anything for you but frustrate you. So focus on yourself. Focus on what you can do for your business and how you can achieve the goals that you want to be successful in. And true success is not about surpassing your own achievements. It's about, I'm sorry, let's say it again. True success is about surpassing your own experiences, not about outpacing your competitors. And always remember that in order to have a high level of success, you need a united team. You can't be successful without your staff behind you. So their growth, their ideas, their feelings of being important and valued is important to the business. It's important to the success and the growth of your business, and you have to understand that molding and bringing up staff is one of the most important things that you can do for your business. And if we can learn how to bridge these gaps between the generation, learn how to work together, that's just going to be another added value that you're going to have above other people who just want to sit back and continue to complain.